This is part 1 of 4 on chapter 13, and we're going to be looking at microbe-human interactions specifically. We're going to start off with the normal flora, so normal microorganisms that are found on the human body, and then we're going to get into the pathogens, the microorganisms that can cause disease, and kind of looking at the progression of disease and how it happens and where we can pick it up. So this chapter is all about looking at that we are not alone. So the human body, we exist in a state of dynamic equilibrium. So that just means that we have a lot of microorganisms that are actually living on our body and also inside of our body. And many of these interactions involve biofilms, which are, think of it as like a film or a buildup of bacteria and fungi. And one really good example of a biofilm is plaque on teeth. So plaque is a biofilm made up of sugars and bacteria and fungi, all coming together to form that film. So these microorganisms that we find on the body, so microbes that engage in mutualistic or commensal associations, we call these our normal flora, or they're called resonant flora, indigenous flora. So these are microbes that are just found normally on skin. And they can form this mutualistic relationship where they're beneficial to both organisms, or it's a commensal relationship where one organism benefits and the other one doesn't really care either way. So kind of remember those from chapter 26. We talked about different types of associations between different organisms. Other organisms are pathogens. These are infectious agents that have the potential for causing disease to the host. And then to define infection is just a condition where that pathogenic microbe, it penetrates our host defense mechanisms, which we'll look at in the final chapter 14/15. The microbe then has to enter into our tissues, it has to multiply, it has to cause harm to the host, and that's when we get sick. An infectious disease, this is when your infection causes damage or disruption to tissues or organs in the host. So our resident flora or our normal flora, most areas in our body are in contact with the outside environment. So think of your skin as a really good example of this. And so your skin is going to harbor these resident microbes, these normal flora. It also includes our digestive tract, so anything involving our digestive tract. All of our internal organs, tissues, and fluids are actually sterile, they're microbe-free. So some resident flora, they can be categorized into different groups. So some flora are transients. These are microbes, they occupy the body for a short period of time, so transient microbes can change over time. The resident normal flora, these are microbes that have become established on our skin or in our digestive tract, and they're always there, so they're very well established on these different parts of our body. And we pick up our resident flora during birth, so inside of the womb, the baby is actually sterile, and it picks up resident flora as it's coming out, so as it's being birthed. And then when people hold the baby, when they go and interact with other people, they pick up different flora from their environment. So that's how these flora get established. So these bacteria flora, they benefit the host by preventing overgrowth of harmful microbes. And this is called microbial antagonism. So this is basically on our skin. Our skin is a habitat for these bacteria to live on. And in that habitat, we want the beneficial bacteria to take up most of the space. And if the beneficial bacteria take up most of the space, that prevents any of that habitat from being open to harmful microorganisms. So these bacteria actually take up space on our skin. If something happens, you can end up with having an endogenous infection. This is when your normal flora is introduced to a site that was previously sterile. So this is when you actually infect yourself, is how you can kind of think of it. So we're going to be looking at the different parts of our body and what type of flora, normal flora are found there. So the biggest area of our body that we find this normal flora is our skin. So skin is the largest, most accessible organ because it's exposed to the outside environment. And there's two types of populations. So we have the transient bacteria on our skin. This is influenced by hygiene. And then the resident bacteria on our skin, this is more of a stable, predictable. It's less influenced by hygiene. We actually know what type of bacteria are the resident bacteria. Besides the skin, we also have our gastrointestinal tract, and variations in our gastrointestinal tract. So this includes our oral cavity, so our mouth, our throat, and then also we're going to be looking at the large intestine. So variations in this flora depends on the pH of these different areas, the oxygen tension, so how much oxygen is available. Our own anatomy can influence what type of flora are found in these areas. So again, it's going to be your oral cavity, large intestine, the rectum. They all harbor these normal flora. And a lot of them actually help with digesting food, so they're beneficial to us. If we look specifically at the mouth has lots and lots of bacteria and lots of diversity in the types of bacteria. So it's the most diverse and unique flora of the body. So there's lots of different places in the mouth, so on the tongue, in different areas of the teeth, on the cheeks, inside of your cheeks. So lots of different niches or niches, so lots of different little areas where bacteria can live. If you take a milliliter of saliva, so very, very tiny amount of saliva, there's 5 times 10 to the 9th cells in there. So tons and tons of bacteria are found in saliva. That's why if you get bit by an animal, so animals also have tons of bacteria in their mouth. If you get bit by an animal, it's really good to go get treatment for that, and you may have to take antibiotics because animals have certain bacteria in their mouth that could cause an infection in our skin. This is also why you don't want to bite other people, especially if you break through the skin. You want to make sure that it's really clean because you have so much bacteria in that saliva. And the large intestine harbors a lot of bacteria that help us break down food. So we have really complex and profound interactions with the host. So our bacteria in our large intestines, some bacteria help us absorb different vitamins, for example, so we really need them to be healthy. And if you thought there's a lot of microbes in saliva, there's even more in feces. So this is why it's important to wash your hands after you use the restroom, just to make sure that you are not carrying around all those bacteria. And the intestinal environment, it has really cool bacteria in it, specifically anaerobic bacteria, so bacteria that do not want to be in oxygen, so they have to be in oxygen-free environments in order to grow and reproduce. In our respiratory tract, so the nasal cavity, in our larynx, in the oral cavity, we have oral streptococci. This is the first organism to colonize the nasal cavity and the oral cavity. We have the nasal entrance, the nasal vestibule, the anterior part of the nasal cavity. The mucous membranes have normal flora in them. Tonsils, the lower pharynx also have lots of bacteria that live there. And then besides our gastrointestinal tract, we have our genitourinary tract. So this includes the reproductive structures and also the urinary tract structures. So different sites can harbor microflora. So in females, you'll find bacteria and yeast in the vagina or the outer openings of the urethra. In males, they have bacteria on the anterior urethra. changes in our physiology in these areas, they can change the composition of the normal flora. So for example, yeast infections in females is usually due to a change in pH, or if that normal flora gets out of balance. So maintenance of our normal resident flora. So we really want these normal flora. It's really essential that we have the healthy mutualistic bacteria living on and in our body. And that's because that flora, they create an environment that prevent infections. It's that microbial antagonism that I mentioned earlier in this part. So the normal flora, they actually protect us, and they help to keep those pathogens away. And our normal flora, they can also be incorporated into our host defense mechanisms. So it's really important to maintain healthy normal flora. So antibiotics can change this. If you change your diet, it changes your normal flora. Diseases can alter your flora. So one way to, for example, keep your digestive tract healthy is to take probiotics, or for example, eat yogurt, which has healthy bacteria in it. So this is introducing known microbes back into the body. There are some procedures, medical procedures, where if a person takes too many antibiotics and their normal flora is not able to fix itself, specifically in the lower intestinal tract, they can actually take feces from one person and they introduce them into that person that's sick. So it's just another way to introduce these probiotics or these microbes, the good ones, back into the body of the person that's not feeling well.